Today we're going to have a good old-fashioned stretch of the back part of our body. So obviously the back and also the back of the legs. We're going to get started immediately in Adho Mukha Svanasana. So let's go on all fours. Hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. Just spend a moment feeling the base of the 10 fingers weighting down into the floor so the hands become active. Feel the weight of your body also coming into your knees and to a certain extent also the toes. And don't drop your tummy down like so. Keep the lower abdomen gently sucking in towards your spine so you have your lumbar area of the spine that's also always nice and full. And then when you're ready, you can push the floor with your hands, bringing your bottom a little closer towards your hips. And then on the next exhalation, pressing the toes into the ground, you can start to bring your knees up off the ground. And have a micro bend for now, just to feel. Keep your head more or less in line with the back. Feel the 10 bases of the fingers coming down. Feel also the weight of your body partially in the metatarsals of your feet. And then without doing anything particularly extraordinary, just feel this kind of inevitability of your pelvis going back and diagonally up, whilst at the same time your solar plexus is moving in the opposite direction. So it's a torso more than anything else at the moment that's getting a nice extension. And feel that you can do this not just through visualization, but also through the breath. So sigh. Keep on pushing away the floor. And then exhale, come down, knees the width of your mat, big toes together, feet flat on the ground. And you can come into Adho Mukha Virasana. If you want to put your hands one on top of each other just to bring your head down onto some kind of support, you can do so. If you don't need the support or don't want it, just bring your head down onto the ground like so. And then we'll try this again. So when you're ready, bringing your bottom slightly closer towards your heels and then pressing with your toes. Your knees come towards your chest a little bit. And again, without doing very much, feel the base of the fingers, the base of the toes. And feel this dual direction of the torso. Solar plexus towards the head and your pelvis moving back and up. And while you're there, you can also take a moment to observe the upper arms. We're wanting them to rotate outwards. And you'll see if you do that, that creates a little bit more space in the chest where the clavicle bones are. And then you can just come down one more time. Knees separate, big toes together, and back into Adho Mukha Virasana. And then breathing in, and you can come up. Adho Mukha Svanasana again. But this time when we're in position, our right leg is going to straighten. That right heel is going to come down towards the ground. And make sure that it's coming down symmetrically, that the heel is not going inwards or outwards. We're looking for symmetry in yoga. Every exhalation, while the heel moves down towards the ground, your pelvis is still moving backwards as your solar plexus moves forwards. And then you can just change the leg. Breathe. Again, watch the symmetry of the heel behind you. And if the heel doesn't come down, that's not an issue. Eventually it will come down, and it just requires a little bit of practice. Come back to the first side. And don't allow your pelvis to come forward. And then the other side. So the more you push the ground with your hands, it's as if you're pushing the ground away, like you want to get rid of it. The more that happens, the more you can ensure that the pelvis moves up and back away from you. And then one more time, knees separate, big toes together. Adho Mukha Virasana. You're really wanting to melt down in this position. Have the impression as well that your thighs are gently squeezing towards one another. And then supporting yourself with your hands, you can bring your solar plexus forwards and start to come up. Adho Mukha Svanasana again. Now before, we did alternate straight legs. This time, I want to treat both legs together and go from bent to straight. So let's start off, first of all, bending both legs as much or as little as you want. But again, the same rule applies. You get rid of the pelvis behind you by pushing intensely with the hands. And also, remember the upper arms are rotating outwards to create as much space as possible in the chest kind of area. So in the next exhalation, you can straighten your legs and be very aware not to change the direction of the pelvis. The pelvis should still be going backwards. Rotating upper arms, breathing, not holding the breath. 10 bases of the fingers down. One more time, bending your legs as much as or as little as you want, but without drastically changing your torso. And then straightening your legs again. Keeping that pelvis firmly going back and up. And then exhale, knees the width of your yoga mat, big toes together, and coming down into Adho Mukha Virasana. So still using Adho Mukha Svanasana as a type of structure, we're going to start to bring a little bit more intensity into the legs. Please remember that we're all really, really different with different histories, different bodies and all the rest of it. So if the stretch is too intense, remember bent legs are fine. Partially, a little bit more fully bent. Please remember the knee needs to be in line with the ankle. And then as you start to release the muscles, you'll find you can start to stretch the legs more. But listen, and the intensity, if you're battling with that, also remember to use sighs. Really cathartic sighs very much help. Let's go. So, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And don't immediately rush in to get that perfect straight leg. Feel it enter into the body. And then leaving the left leg where it is, we're going to start to raise our right leg. Just going to move forward a bit because I don't have a lot of room. Now, as I raise my right leg, I'm not going to go into full position immediately. And what I'm interested in is two things. One, my hips have got to be in line. And number two, my hips need to keep on going back towards the wall. A lot of us tend to bring the hips forward. We want to keep that going back. So maybe just the first time we do this, have the leg in line with the hip and just feel. And then you can bring the right leg down. Maybe just sort out your hands and your feet a little bit. And then when you're ready, we're going to anchor down the right foot and just lift the left leg until it's at hips height. Don't allow both hips to move forward. Keep the pressure of the hands pushing the ground away so that allows the hips to move back. Activate your feet as well. And then come back into Ardha Mukha Svanasana. We'll do a quick break. This is quite tiring on the hands as well. So if you need to massage your hands during the Ardha Mukha Virasana break, go for it. Okay, and let's try again. So starting off in Ardha Mukha Svanasana. That should be getting easier and easier with each time you move into the position. Feel the pelvis going in one direction and the chest going in another. Lower abdomen in. And then putting the weight into your left foot, we're going to raise the right foot until the leg is in line with the hips. Now, if this is okay, you can start to raise the leg a little bit more, but try and keep the hips parallel. And remember, the hips still have to move back behind. Breathe. Keep the throat really nice and open. And then you can move the foot back down onto the ground. Spend a moment recouping your evenness, your symmetry. And then lift the left leg. Firstly, till hips height. And then if you can still manage to push with your hands to move the hips back behind you, at that point, you can start to raise the leg a little bit more. Maybe point the foot, the left foot, or keep it flexed, whatever you prefer. And then you can just come down, knees separate, big toes together. And enjoy the relax. So we're going to do a tiny sequence which unites a series of moves. Now when you move from one position to another, or one exercise to another in a type of flow, remember to breathe out as you move from one body shape to another. And that just releases, allows the shape to take your body. Really, that's what you're wanting to do, rather than you forcing the shape into your body. If anything, it should be the opposite. I've found that kind of thinking is really, really helpful and takes away a lot of the resistance. So maybe play around with that idea. So we're going to go into Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Taking your time to get fully into it, fully experiencing it. And as I said, allowing the form to take hold of your body. And then from there, we're going to insert a retroversion. So bring the pubic bone close to your head, and you'll find that moves the whole of your body forward until your shoulders are in line with your wrists. You're in plank now. Just spend a moment there. Breathe. And then from there, we're going to bend our knees down until we're almost touching the floor, but we're not going to actually touch the floor, okay? Now, don't allow your tummy to collapse. The tummy, if anything, is now touching the ceiling. Okay, and then we're going to go back to the plank. And then from there, again with the retroversion, we'll come back into Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Really feel that the pelvis is moving in one direction, the chest in the opposite direction. And again, the retroversion brings you forward. Exhale into the plank. Head is in line with the back. Shoulders are in line with the wrists. 10 bases of the fingers, really, really growing roots into the ground. And then exhale, bring your knees really close to the ground without touching, and your tummy goes up towards the ceiling. Keep on breathing, keep the throat nice and open. Hands and arms really strong. And then you can really stretch your legs. And then with the retroversion, go back into Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Keep on feeling the chest moving towards your hands while the pelvis moves to whatever you've got behind you. Again, one last time, retroversion brings you into the plank. And then you bring your knees down, but your tummy stays up. Coming back into the plank. And then Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Exhale, knees down, big toes together. Ardha Mukha Virasana, relax. Breathing in and coming up. So I'd like to continue on from this idea of the back leg extending and seeing where we go with this idea. And we'll be looking at this through the optic, shall we say, of the position Urdhva Prasarita Ekapadasana. Although some of you will enter fully into the pose, other people will not be remotely near. I'm not interested. I'm interested, as I say, in the right technique and feeling. And above all, anytime there's any kind of tension, you exhale and you relieve that tension from within. So to the end, we're going to have a chair. You might want to grab a brick, although the brick is symbolic, as you'll see. And you might want also a cover or a yoga mat on the backrest. So we're going to come like so and be very high. Now, in the first instance, this is essentially Ardha Uttanasana. So we're not wanting this with our back. We're wanting a nice straight back. So what does that mean? It means that the pelvis goes back behind while the solar plexus goes forward. It's literally the same thing over and over again. Now you can see that by doing this, you've got a pelvis which is also even. And with that brick, we can kind of balance it there. So we have this reminder on our pelvis about this symmetry between the two hips. And now we're going to just raise the right leg. So we're doing a type of Virabhadrasana 3 actually. However, it doesn't interest me very much. Again, the pelvis is still going towards my back leg. while my solar plexus goes towards the hands. Now what I can start to do is lift that back leg a little further up. But you can see that I'm trying to maintain both my hips in a straight line. Often what happens is the right hip lifts and oops, there's the pelvis, there's the brick that's gone. And the pelvis is gone as well. So it's kind of useful working with a brick just so you've got that reminder. So you can lift that back leg any amount, but do make sure that the hips, where possible, are more or less in a straight line. And then just come down. And you can try the other side. Now, if you want to get that brick back, then do so. The brick really just serves to remind you that we're wanting to keep the hips relatively even. Now, if you can't lift the leg because it's still very, very stiff, then that's fine. You work at your own pace. If you can, if you've got a lot of extension, you can start to lift that back leg up more and more. And don't be in any rush. As I say, we're really wanting to feel what is going on in our bodies, and you're going to feel a lot of work in the hip of the standing leg. And then just come down. And what we can do is we can use the seat of the chair just to do a little bit of a relaxation using Uttanasana. Obviously, if you can get down, that's fine. Or if that's too low, you could go back, grab that brick, and just rest your head on it like so. And allow yourself just to release. Maybe have a slight bend in your legs. And feel with every exhalation the pelvis moving back while the solar plexus moves forward. Okay, now let's do that again. If this is a position that it goes well for you, you can take this up a notch and actually bring your hands down onto the seat of the chair and or start to work your torso down as the back leg moves further up. However, let's just start off as before. If you need the backrest, use it. If you're quite happy to move down onto the seat of the chair, then use it. So we're going back to raise our right leg. Make sure the hips are in line. And then as you start to lift the right leg up, be very, very careful that the hips are in alignment. And then, as I say, if you're wanting to move the anterior part of your torso further down towards the floor and eventually maybe towards the front of the left leg, you can walk your way down the legs of the chair until you're on the ground. And then remember, the solar plexus is still moving towards the ground. And then you can just come down with the right leg. Maybe bring your arms back onto the seat again. You don't have to, by any means, walk down the legs or move down at all. If this is really, really hard for you, you stay until such time as you can get more flexibility. Other side. So first of all, just feeling the symmetry of the hips. And enjoying that symmetry. The foot of the back leg can either be pointed or flexed, whatever you prefer. And then, if you wish, you can start to raise that back leg more. But please bear in mind that the hips need to be in alignment. And then you can start to walk your way down towards the floor, lifting your leg a little bit more if you can. And then think about what the solar plexus is doing, how it's still moving away from the pelvis. And then what is the breathing doing? How is your throat? So there's always a certain amount of critical thinking that you should be putting into your yoga practice in order to keep things alive. And then you can start to bring that left leg down. Bring a support to the seat of the chair if you need it, so you can rest your head. Make it lower. Or if you don't need it, you can even just bring your forehead onto the chair like so. Sigh and relax. And to finish off today's sesh, we're going to keep to the chair, sit quite well back on it, have our feet parallel. In this case, my feet are touching the feet of the chair. And then feeling the lower abdomen coming into my body and feeling that my solar plexus is guiding me forward. I exhale. I don't in any way change my feet. My feet remain parallel throughout this, so you might actually need to work your feet quite hard. And as I exhale, I can come in between my legs. And flop over. As I say, my feet remain quite strong. And I feel gravity take hold of my head, my arms, my shoulders. But I also feel gravity take hold of my hips. My hips are sinking with every exhalation further and further down into the chair. And you want to spend a couple of moments like this. Now, I advise you when you come out, you first of all just put your hands onto your knees, suck in the lower abdomen, bring the solar plexus forward so you're always aware of what's going on in those 2 points of the torso. And then from there you can come up, and in that way you will come up safely.